It's Crystal Beaudry here. So about a year ago, I did a book review about a 21-day hormone reset diet, and it was one of my favorite episodes, and a ton of people loved it. And so I thought I would do another book review. This time we are going to do Lies My Doctor Told Me, Medical Myths That Can Harm Your Health. And I got the recommendation for this book from one of my friends, and it is, wow. It is one of the best books I have heard in a really long time. I did it on Audible, so it was really easy for me to go about my work while I am listening, and it had me riveted the entire time. Seriously, have you ever read one of, especially a book where you're learning stuff and it's just so boring, or, oh, I can't do it. Well, this book was not like that. It was so good. I couldn't stop listening to it. And so now I have the actual copy that I got from the library, and I'm going through it this way. And I wanted to do a book review. If you're wondering what that means, basically I'm going to be going through the book. It's going to be a little bit easier for you to kind of grasp the key points of it without having to read it all yourself. So it will be a lot easier for you to do. You guys are going to enjoy it. Yay, I can't wait to get started. So, as we're talking about health, when you go to the doctor, a lot of times people view the doctor, they are this know-it-all being that can magically help you with whatever you need. And sadly, even the last few years, so many people that I know, that I come in contact with, are they don't even go to see the doctor because they know what all these new studies that have come out that doctors maybe aren't reading or aren't kind of getting on board with, and they're very stuck in their old way of thinking. And there's a lot more different things that are out there right now. And chiropractic care, acupuncture, there's so many other things that you could, homeopathy, going to see a homeopathic person that could probably help you with a more natural way. There's so many other options. And so this book, for that reason too, this is what interests me, because my way of thinking, I would rather go see a homeopathic person and find out what I could do naturally than go to the doctor and hear, oh hey, take this drug, take this medicine that Big Pharma has produced. To me, I'm just like, is what you're saying even correct? I've lost faith in the doctor, it seems like. Unless, of course, I have a broken arm or something like that. So this book, it's great for that. It's great to, a lot of these lies and these myths that everybody has heard before, I've known about. And not all of them, of course, but it was really interesting to see. One of the hugest things that I loved about this book was it was interesting to see what the actual science was behind these myths. And was it tainted? Was this study tainted? Did people not really read the whole study and maybe just the conclusion? And so it's so fascinating. You guys are going to love this book. So this person who wrote it, his name is Dr. Ken Berry. He has been a doctor forever. He's, a very well-respected doctor. And he said that he woke up one day and he was like, I'm fat. I'm unhappy. I'm not in great health. And so he started looking into it. He's like, I keep telling my patients to do all of this stuff, and I myself am not doing it. And I'm not loving where my life is going. And so he decided to pull out all of his old teachings from when he was in medical school about nutrition. And he's like, okay, I know we are what we eat, so I'm going to start with nutrition. And so he pulled out all his notes, and you would expect from a doctor there must be piles and piles and piles of notes about nutrition, because this is the doctor training. And he said it was like one little notebook about nutrition. I've heard that many times before, that all this training that you think doctors are getting on super important subjects. Nutrition is a real important subject, especially with all the things that you're hearing out there now. It's really important. And for him to only have such a little bit of training on it, it's alarming. So he said that he looked over his notes and he said he remembered that one of his professors was talking about whole wheat pasta and how good it was for diabetics, especially, to be eating whole wheat pasta. Oh, that was another thing. He said that he also got his lab works done, his lab tests, and found out that he was pre-diabetic. Super alarming. And so he was like, okay, so my professor, I remember him saying that that whole wheat pasta was super good for you. That's all I've been eating. I mean, I eat tons of whole grains, and obviously I'm fat and I'm pre-diabetic, so this is not working. So he said that he went through and started studying out the case studies for some of the different diets that are out there, or ways of eating, as I like to say. So he first checked out the Atkins diet. We've all heard about the Atkins diet. It's very similar to the keto diet. It might be exactly the same, and I'm not positive. And he said that so many people have been saying, oh, the Atkins diet is not good for your health. Like it can hurt your kidneys. It can, do all of this damage. And so he said he read the studies for it, and he was like, okay, the conclusion that people have gotten from this study isn't necessarily the conclusion that they should have come up with. If you look at the data, it's different. So he said that he decided to try out the Atkins diet and lost 20 pounds, and he started feeling amazing. Now, if you don't know what the Atkins diet is, it's, you can eat a lot of fat, you can have a lot of butter and meat and fat. And so he was like, I have no problem with the Atkins diet, but I started missing out on eating fruits and vegetables. He's like, I like doing that, which that's how I am too. I enjoy eating fruits and vegetables. And so he's like, so I kept on looking, and he said, I discovered another book called The Primal Blueprint, which actually I'm about to start reading. And I'll probably do an episode on that one too, because I keep hearing all these amazing things about that book. And so The Primal Blueprint talks about, how did we do it in the Paleolithic age? Did we, the paleo diet deals with like whatever you can hunt, gather, or grow. And it really kind of stays away from grains, and in some strict paleo, no dairy and no sugar. So like a primal paleo is basically the same thing but with dairy. And so he's like, our ancestors did that for years, and there was not all of this obesity and illnesses that come with obesity. And so he said, it's interesting that, when we started introducing the grains and the sugars and all of that we started getting all of these additional problems and illnesses. And as a whole, Americans are some of the sickest people in the world. And I believe it's because of our food industry, and it's because of just what we're eating. You are what you eat. And so he said that he began this whole process of kind of retraining his brain. And so he said that when he did the Atkins diet, he was checking his levels, he was checking his labs, and he said, after I lost the 20 pounds, he said my kidney functions, which, remember, that is what they originally said was going to be damaged. It was going to damage his kidneys. He said his kidney levels were even better than they were before. He was like, oh, that's interesting, what the experts are saying versus what really happened. So he said that he went and did this primal paleo way of life next, or diet, and he lost another 20 pounds. And he was like, wow. He's like, I am so sold on it. He's like, I haven't felt this good in so long, and my mind is clear. And he said that there was just so many health benefits for it. So he got digging into, when he was writing this book, what other myths or lies is the health industry telling us that, isn't necessarily true. And so, like I said earlier, the one thing that I love about this book, I knew a lot of these things, but when I'm telling people about it, sure, I can tell you that's not true. But they're like, well, okay, we'll prove it. One of the sayings that I hate the most is, Just trust the studies. Do you guys hate that too? Oh, I hate that. Because you don't know, like when people say trust the studies, cool. Who funded the studies? Like all of the things. Was the conclusion correct? Did you actually read the study? It's interesting. So what I love about each of these lies or myths that the doctors are telling people, he goes back and looks at the studies, reads the whole thing instead of just the conclusions. He was like, so many doctors will just read the conclusion of the study. And you can't do that. You have to read the whole study and see, okay, with the conclusion, were they reaching? Was that actually what happened? Or did they kind of skew it to whoever supported the study or whoever paid for the study? So that's what I believe what makes this book valid, because he's able to show you what the studies say and who funded it, and you can kind of make your own conclusions from that. He tells his conclusion, and I support his conclusion for the majority of them. There was a couple of them that I was like, I don't know what I think about that. I'm gonna have to think about that one and study it out a little bit more. But this book was excellent. So make sure to, I'll be leaving a link down below in the descriptions where you can buy it off of either Audible or off of Amazon. Okay, so the first one that the first myth that he goes out is the myth about fat. So experts, they very seldom will retract something that they found out later to not be true. So like, let's say they've been saying for years and years and years to do one thing, and then they find out, oh, that's not accurate. They almost never will come back and say, oh, we were wrong about that, and you guys shouldn't follow that advice anymore. No, they'll just kind of shove it under the rug, and people, the masses, will never hear about it. So if you want to think about, years ago when they said that eggs and butter was bad, right? So many people think, oh, you shouldn't eat eggs because it will make your cholesterol really high and you just shouldn't do it. And so many people still to this day believe that, when that's not true at all. Like, eggs are some of the most healthiest thing that you could have for breakfast out there. It's way better than cereal or anything like that. Eggs is like one of them. It has a great source of protein. It has your fats. It has it's so complete. You should be eating eggs. And so when people found out, oh, that's not really true, did you hear people retracting what they said before? No, they just moved over it, moved on, and kept going with their day. Okay, so mindlessly repetition of a lie makes people believe it, because people are just repeating it over and over. Okay, so here's lie number 1. Eating fat, especially saturated fat, leads to high cholesterol, obesity, and heart disease. So why should you care? Now, you should care about your body. The doctors aren't going to care about your body. If they give you a wrong prescription, if it damages you, or if they mess up your life in some way, sure, you could sue them, but you would be the one that was stuck with whatever you have, right? If they did something wrong, that's on them. That's on you, I actually had a friend who went to the doctor, got prescribed medication, took the medication like she should, and ended up dying. And, that's her. She paid the price for the doctor's error. She paid the price because she listened to their suggestions. And that's an extreme case, but do you know how many times that happens? It happens a lot. You can't just, or even somebody else that I know went to the hospital to get, something removed, and they said, oh, take this specific pain medication. So, okay, I guess. So they took the pain medication, and it ended up making 2 other things go wrong inside of them. And they were in a world of pain, and they had to be at the hospital even longer because they were in so much pain from what they suggested you take. And we have to do, unfortunately, you have to do your own research. You have to know what it is you're putting in your body, what it's going to do to your liver, what it's going to do to other aspects of your body. You have to be educated. Okay, sorry, back to the lie. Okay, so we should care what's going on in our body. We should care what's good for us and what's not good for us. And he said, if you look for actual hard research, with their lie, you don't really find any. Multiple large studies over the years, which were conducted to show once and for all that fat was bad, actually showed that there was no link between fat consumption and increased risk of heart attack or stroke. So, a lot of the experts would have us believe that we need to fill up on whole grains and skim milks, but, that's not the case. And fruit juice, So, I love this example. So he goes, imagine that you're going out to a farm, right? And you're like, okay, farmer, we need to make these cows skinny. So let's give them grains and grain. Let's give them grains and sugars because we need to make them skinny. For those of you that have grown up around a farm or know anything about a farm, you know that when you go to a farm, what happens to a cow, they raise the cow, and then a couple of months before they're slaughtered, they are fed all grain and corn diet. And what does that do? It fattens them up. It fattens them up before they go and to be butchered. And everybody knows that. If you know anything about farms, you know that that's true. And then even with do you know what pate is? So it's a goose liver that is a delicacy. And it's super mean how they do it. Ugh, it's so mean. I can't believe that, whatever. But how they make this is they will open the goose's mouth, shove in a tube that is force feeding them. Guess. Fat, lard? No. It's force feeding them corn and grain. And what does it do? It makes their liver have a fatty liver, and then that's how they make pate. So gross. But, there's a lot of people out there that struggle with fatty liver disease. And a lot of times that happens in people that are overweight. And doctors sometimes say, well, that's happening because you're eating too many fats. No, that's not why that's happening. Just like in the liver, it's happening mainly because you're eating too many grains. And it's going to put the pounds on your body. So if you're trying to lose weight, keep that in mind. If you're going to be eating corn and grains, you're not going to be losing weight. It's going to just keep all that weight on your body. Okay, so then he goes into the research aspect of it. And he's like, okay, well, how did this lie even start? So it started with this doctor. His name was Dr. Keys, and Axel Keys. And he said, okay, I'm going to do this 22 country study about fat, proving that having too much fat will make you can have strokes and heart attacks and all of the things. And so he did this 22 country studies. Well, when he produced his paper, it actually became the 7 country study. It became a 7 country study. And that whole study, like he left out data. You can't do that when you're doing a study. And the reason why he did was because those other countries were showing that fat consumption had little or no effect on it, or even it was the opposite. So he didn't want that data, and so he cut out all of those other countries, and he called it the 7 country study. Now, also at the time, the American government was paying him hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this study. And it was just deeply flawed and super dishonest. But because of that study, it sparked kind of this movement in America, especially for a low-fat diet and low-fat lifestyle. And then, of course, Big Pharma got on it and said, oh, well, we should make pills for that. And, this low-fat lifestyle, if you have a low-fat lifestyle, it's going to affect things in your body. Your brain's going to have a hard time with it. It's not good. Fat is so important for your body. And so Big Pharma, of course, making their drugs for it. And, that's a multi-billion-dollar for their drugs for cholesterol. And so, a lot of times people say, oh, well, you need a cholesterol medication. okay, look at what you're doing in your lifestyle first. Look at how you're eating. And I bet you anything you could reverse what is happening in your body. And, that would be something great for you to have a conversation with your doctor about, or even a naturopathic doctor, and talking about ways that you could lower your cholesterol and all of that. So, what you do, what you eat, it affects you. It affects how you live. There are so many people that are getting, Alzheimer's and, all of those types of diseases where your brain is not quite firing correctly. And I am a firm believer that comes from, part of what it comes from is not having enough fat, because the fat affects your brain and it makes it work better. So this is the takeaway. Your brain and your nerves are made largely of fat and cholesterol. Without the fat in our cell membranes, life as we know it wouldn't be possible, because the signaling that it occurs between the cells that make up our body, there's signaling. That's what I was talking about. And we've known this to be a medical fact for decades. So it's shocking that so many people bought into the lie when Dr. Keyes did this study. And then there was another study that came out, because people do sub-studies on other studies. And so one of the studies that came out after Dr. Keyes' study was about cholesterol. But when they did that study, first of all, they based it on his saying, oh, since this is right, then this must be happening. And so what they did was during that study, they included the good fats and the bad fats together. And they said, okay, so this is why you're getting a higher cholesterol but that you can't do that. Everybody knows, obviously, like eating the bad fats, you shouldn't do. Everybody knows that. Fried foods, oh yeah, sure. Go ahead and eat them. No, everybody knows you shouldn't be eating the bad fats. Hopefully everybody knows. But, unfortunately, so when they did these sub-studies and said, oh, well, see, this is why your cholesterol is going up. It's because you're eating fat. Well, no, that study was corrupted. You can't use that if you're not going to do it correctly. And so he talks a lot about that in this section as well. And another thing that I thought was really cool was another researcher went years and years and years later. They went back over Dr. Keyes' work. And this was so interesting. There was actually another correlation to the heart disease than fat consumption. Can you guess what it was? Sugar consumption. Like, if you have been following my channel for any amount of time, you will know I am very anti-sugar, because there is so much detriment that can happen to your body when you're just eating tons of sugar. And so this is interesting, because if there was a huge sugar correlation with the heart disease and all of these things that Dr. Keyes was studying, that's huge. And actually, it wasn't even in just the 7 countries. It was in all 22 of the countries. So this chapter was so amazing. I'm going to end this by telling you this meme one of my friends told me. And she said, if your doctor isn't asking you about what you're eating and about what you're doing for your gut health, and instead he's just prescribing you stuff, then he isn't your doctor, he's your drug dealer. So that's such a good saying. Oh my goodness. So I encourage you guys, stay tuned. We are going to be making a lot more of these episodes about lies my doctor told me, and some of them are so shocking, and some of them I'm like, I don't know what I think about that. So stay tuned, hit that like button, and also subscribe to my channel, because you are not going to want to miss any of these episodes. We'll see you next time. Bye.